Hello, my name is Bo Rugg, Senior Director of Officiating and Sport Management and the Lacrosse Administrator for the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Welcome to the Girls Lacrosse 2020 Rules and Regulations Interpretation Meeting. Hopefully there's some great information for you in this presentation that you will use throughout this season. Please take a look at this slide before advancing. We've had some problems with people that use the Chromebook device to view this presentation. You may not receive credit, so you may want to use a different device. Here's some resources that can help answer some of your questions. You may always email me if you have questions about girls lacrosse. Rules can be answered mainly in the NFHS 2020 Girls Lacrosse Rulebook. The 1920 OHSAA Handbook and 1920 OHSAA Girls Coaches Guide are great resources that you can find online at www.ohsaa.org. This online meeting is mandatory for all schools. We highly encourage you have all of your coaches view this meeting. Please don't call us for verification. It takes 5 to 7 days. Athletic directors and coaches, you can check your profile for proof of attendance. The purpose of this meeting is to answer some of the questions and make you aware of the administrative rules and NFHS playing rules and rule changes. Two documents that will help you are the 1920 OHSAA Handbook and the 2020 Girls Lacrosse NFHS Rulebook. As mentioned earlier, the head coach is required to view this meeting, but we highly recommend that assistant, JV, freshman coaches, even volunteer coaches, take a look at this meeting. It has a lot of great information. Well, practice is starting pretty soon on February 24th. From now until February 24th, make sure all your coaches have their correct certifications. You can be weightlifting and you can do open gym. You can find those in General Sports Regulations 9 and 10. And of course, the individual instruction goes on all year also in General Sports Regulation 8.2. The regular season will start March 20th. The Ohio Administrative Code and OHSAA bylaws require all coaches to meet the requirements of the Ohio Department of Education as it relates to the Pupil Activity Permit. This includes all coaches, whether you are paid, unpaid, volunteer, all coaches must have a pupil activity permit. The regulations on the next few slides generate a lot of questions. Let's see if we can answer some of them. Remember, all of these regulations and all of these activities cannot be mandatory. First, open gym, open nets. General Sports Regulation 10. Can't have any coaching or instruction. You can't run drills. No timing or scorekeeping. Coaches can play but not coach. On weightlifting and conditioning, that's General Sports Regulation 9. You can't include specific sport drills in this. And they can be conducted at any time, but they can't be a select group of students participating in these activities. General Sports Regulation 8.2 offers coaches the ability to give individual instruction to players. This allows coaches to provide the same type of instruction outside the season with a limit of 4 players. You can do shooting techniques, wall ball, ground balls, individual skills, but you can't do team drills. Anytime you have more than 4 present, you cannot do team drills and scrimmage under this regulation. Girls Sports Regulation 2.6 talks about indoor lacrosse. It's defined very well, and you really just have to realize that in indoor lacrosse, that's an exception for the out-of-season player restrictions. However, the 50% limitation is in effect if the school coach is coaching. Sports Regulation 7.9 permits 10 instructional days between June 1st and July 31st. This is per staff, not individual coaches, and junior high days are separate from high school days. You can use this for team play, summer games, tournaments, etc. If you're coaching more than 6, you need to use one of these days. Other than that, the 50% limitation would be in effect. Remember last year, General Sports Regulation 7.5.2 was changed. All school coaches may coach players in all grades 7 through 12 in team play outside the season, club and travel, as long as the 50% limitation, 6 players in girls lacrosse, is adhered to. You still may not coach during the no contact period, which is in August. Teams may play in 3 scrimmages anytime during the season, from the time you start practice until June 1st. Teams may play a bordering state anytime during the season, as often as they wish, but in a non-bordering state, they may only play one time, and students may not miss any school time for travel or competition. Unfortunately, ejections happen, and let's go over what the specific policies are when a coach or player are ejected. A coach is out for all games the remainder of the day, and all contests until 2 at that level competition are complete. Coaches must leave the site if they're ejected. They'll pay a $100 fine, and they'll complete the NFHS course. Players are also out for all games the remainder of the day, and all contests until 2 at that level of the ejection are complete. Players are to stay in the bench area for the remainder of that game. During their ejection, suspended players may travel with the team to away games, but cannot be in uniform or participate in any warm-up activities. All ejections have their own story, but there are no appeals to officials' decisions in games. That includes ejections. There are no appeals. If you don't like the officiating, don't quit. Don't take your team off the field. Contact the hiring entity, your assigner, your league, or if it's a tournament game, this office, and lodge your concern. Coaches and officials are required every 3 years to take the concussion course. There's a new concussion course for players at nfhslearn.com. It's a great way for your players to understand what's going on around them as it relates to safety. This is not something we take lightly. We have a system that puts officials into pools to officiate tournament contests. It's a rating and voting system. Coaches rate, and there are others that vote. The coaches' rating instructions are on page 17 of the coach's guide. We encourage you to rate officials. There must be somebody responsible for the administration of games. You have to ensure the safety of the officials. You have to deal with unruly fans. Medical emergencies happen. We have to handle those in a safe manner. And crisis management and weather issues are a big part of what happens at outdoor events. Someone is responsible. It might be you as the coach, but please make sure officials know who the responsible person is at that contest. Uniform and equipment regulations are in the NFHS rulebook in Rule 2. There are no exceptions to what's in Rule 2. Headgear is permitted per NFHS rule, but not required. Some of the guidelines are found on uslacrosse.org. The field diagrams are located in the NFHS rulebook. We do allow the unified field as an option, but we will be playing neutral site tournament contests as well as our state championships with gender-specific lines. The OHSAA safety policies in relation to inclement weather are now in line with the NFHS rulebook policies. You may find these in the 2020 NFHS Girls Lacrosse Rulebook on page 103. As always, any lightning seen or thunder heard, we evacuate the field and take cover. The 30-minute rule could be in effect. It's always in effect when thunder is heard. If there is only lightning, under certain conditions, we may be able to continue play. That's only if thunder is not heard. When lightning is seen and there is no thunder, you may use a mobile device or any technology to determine if it's safe to play. The coaches, the administrators, and the officials need to get together to make this decision. You can't depend on this technology all the time, but there are certain conditions where it may be safe to play. Remember, if you have had a delay, you may shorten or eliminate halftime. That is up to the game administrators and the coaches whether they would like to do this. If we have a delay, all players and coaches must be out of the field area during the suspension. Game administration, coaches, and officials must work together on inclement weather issues. A game that cannot be completed for any reason will be treated as a suspended game. It will be continued from the point of interruption. Games must be completed unless both coaches agree not to complete the game. If interruption occurs in the fourth quarter with 80% or more of the game complete, the team in the lead shall be declared the winner. 80% equals completed game. These are game and player limitations for grades 9 through 12. These athletes may play in a maximum of 46 halves for the season, plus the OHSAA tournament. Coaches are responsible for tracking this. A player is permitted to play in a maximum of 2 games per day, up to a maximum of 3 halves per common opponent. The exception is play days. Overtime is considered an extension of the second half and does not count as an additional half played. Remember, you can play 3 scrimmages and 18 regular season contests. Only high school varsity games may play overtime. Overtime is sudden victory, and you may play a maximum of 2 overtime periods in the regular season. They're 6 minutes each. The teams will change ends after 3 minutes with no delay for coaching. If the 2 overtime periods are completed and the game is tied, it will be a tie game. Recruiting is more and more of a concern. Any activity that attempts to influence a student's enrollment or transfer to a member school is impermissible. Some of the things you can do is mass marketing, and it's to the general population, not named individuals. You can have an open house on campus that provides all elements of the school's programs. You can have invitations to general population to visit Shadow, provided the visit is related to all aspects of the school's program and the administration approves. Advertising of the entire school program is okay, but not advertising just for sports. There can be invitations to games and events provided the invitations are extended to the entire group and it's approved by the school and the organization's administration. but there will be no running onto the playing surface, locker room pre-visit meals, or any interaction with the team prior to or after the contest. Some activities that are not permissible: direct mailings or any type of electronic communication, including text, email, social media posts, to a specific individual or individuals. Meeting with or marketing to a select athletic group, like an 8th grade team. Before official acceptance enrollment into school, a coach having contact with a student, a coach having contact with the students or parents is impermissible. Some other activities to watch out for, because you don't want to break regulations, is distributing publications solely advertising athletics, providing favors or inducements, providing financial aid on the basis of athletic ability, and then leaving one school and having the students follow you to the new school. That creates a rebuttal presumption of recruiting. Protect yourself so you don't have a violation of our regulations. Refer all questions to your senior administrator, principal, or head of admissions. Disclose any and all contact from parents or others to your senior administration immediately. Know that violations may produce suspension from OHSAA tournaments and ineligibility for the students and other institutional penalties. You need to know who's on your roster and make sure, if you have any transfer students, that they either A, meet one of the 9 exceptions, and if they don't meet an exception, they will be ineligible after game 9, and they may not play in postseason tournaments. Check and double check with your athletic director. Comments to the news media is not just about being in front of a microphone anymore. Facebook, Twitter, all of these things can get you in trouble. Please think before you make comments to the news media. Make sure you check out the tournament regulations so you know when the tournament draw and the tournament begins. The tournament draw will be on May 10th. The full tournament runs from May 16th through June 6th. If you have an issue with something dealing with the tournament, please ask. We do not feel that distance traveled to a contest, whether one team goes a little further than the other, is an issue. And a team playing on a field multiple times is not an issue. Again, rain or less than ideal field conditions, if it's not lightning, we're going to play. And we will try to put games on the best surface possible. NFHS rules are reviewed and changed every year. The committee does this. In the next slides, our Director of Officiating Development, Lissa Fickert, will talk about the rules changes for this year, as well as some of our points of emphasis.
On behalf of OHSAA, welcome to the 2020 Girls Lacrosse Rules Interpretation presentation. I'm Lissa Fickert, and I am your Director of Officiating Development. I'm excited to see the new rules in action and look forward to a great season. Links to obtain rules books are shown here. Hard copies and ebooks are available to purchase through the NFHS website. They will be mailed out to USL members who selected this rules book when joining US Lacrosse. Ebooks are available for purchase at www.nfhs.org/ebooks. The rules books may also be accessed through the NFHS Rules app from the App Store or from Amazon. Please visit uslacrosse.org/rules to view the rules interpretation video, new rules webinar, and the youth rules webinar. I highly recommend that you view all of them in addition to this presentation. The rules video and the officials manual provide guidance, situation, and interpretations to supplement the rules book. The manual may be downloaded from uslacrosse.org/officials/resources. Helpful links regarding interpretation and FAQs may also be found at this site. Now, for our rules review. In this presentation, we will cover the following: the major rules changes, points of emphasis, mechanics, and FAQs. Let's review the major rule changes for 2020. Rulebook references may be found in each slide header. This year's rules include changes in 4 major categories: stick and equipment, free movement, which has the primary intent to improve the pace of the game and allow for a less restrictive experience for the athletes, modification to starts and restarts to coordinate with free movement, and foul and penalty administration. Officials are encouraged to prepare for the upcoming season by reviewing the entire 2020 rulebook and all supplemental materials provided by U.S. Lacrosse. While shooting strings have to be attached directly to the sidewall of the stick, they do not have to go through stringing holes. The stick inspection procedure has changed slightly, affecting only the back face of the pocket. Officials shall check the front side of the pocket as they have in the past. When now inspecting the back of the stick, the official will drop the ball into the upper third of the head at its widest point. Apply pressure one time and check for pocket depth. Tilt the stick and head 90 degrees to ensure the ball rolls out of the pocket. Beginning January 1, 2021, the goalkeeper's chest protector must meet the NOCSAA standard for lacrosse. The currently certified protectors may be found on the SEI website. Equipment shall not be modified from its manufactured state and shall be worn in the manner that the manufacturers intended it to be worn. This includes additions, adornments, or devices that alter the equipment. Include such items as face shields, mohawk attachments, and GoPros to helmets. This added language emphasizes the responsibility of the players and coaches to maintain the integrity of protective equipment and ensure that the aftermarket adjustments are not used to avoid certification or limit effectiveness. What would you do if you see this? During the pregame stick check, be proactive and fix if possible. If it cannot be made certifiable, that player may not play without equipment. If it's the first time during play, a substitute must replace the offending player unless a correction can be made without delay. A free position for a minor foul shall be awarded. If you see it subsequently during play, apply the delay of game procedure. Rules already require that eyewear legal for play must be SEI certified and listed on the Safety Equipment Institute website by January 1, 2020. The new rule states the eyewear must have the SEI certification mark on them by January 1, 2025. A link to SEI can be found on the USL website. Coaches, please check the list for your team's compliance. Officials shall continue to ask coaches to verbally certify that all of their team's equipment is legal under the rules. The Safety Equipment Institute, SEI, is an independent third-party certification program provider. All certified equipment used in lacrosse is listed on the SEI website. Note, the list of legal lacrosse sticks, which meets manufacturer's specification, but are not subject to certification, may be found on the USL Lacrosse website. The signature lacrosse ball, the KSONE brand, has been recalled. NOCSAA cautions the public against the use of these products and recommends regularly checking the SEI website at www.seinet.org to stay updated on products that have been properly certified to the NOCSAA standard, as well as to be notified of safety alerts and any changes to this listing. Electronic devices, video replay, or television monitoring devices may not be used for any review of any official's decision. There now may be fewer than 12 players per team on the field at the draw. Officials no longer need to wait for a full complement of players to begin the draw. Officials should still count players to confirm that there are not more than 12 per team on the field and not more than 3 per team between the restraining lines. Be aware that there may be times when there are fewer than 4 players behind the restraining line. Be sure to count ahead for proper numbers to enforce offside. Players may not enter the field after the official's hand is on the sticks, and this is not new. The note on page 37 clarifies when a player may enter. A violation of this is a minor foul. Following any whistle, regardless of the restart being a whistle or a self-start, all players other than the ball carrier and the offender, if a foul, may move freely. Offender still moves behind or away as directed. Note, self-start and free movement are not always linked. There is still free movement even when self-start is not allowed, like in the CSA or when the clock is stopped under 2 minutes. A few self-start reminders. No self-starts in the CSA, including fouls committed by an attack player that are now coming out of the CSA. No self-starts under 2 minutes in each half unless there is a 10-goal differential. Players must be making an attempt to move away from the player, and the offender must attempt to move away or behind. General requirements for free movement. Players not involved in a free position may move freely on the field during a whistle or stoppage of play, except they shall move 4 meters away from the player taking the free position, move 2 meters away from the ball carrier bringing the ball onto the field from out of bounds. Free movement when play is within the CSA. Players not involved in a free position may move freely on the field during a whistle or stoppage of play when the play is in the CSA, except they shall clear the penalty lane and zone when applicable. The goalkeeper may move back into the goal circle if she is not involved in a free position, is not bringing the ball in from out of bounds, or there is not an illegal deputy foul. Alternate possession or fouls below the GLE are set up on the dot. Free movement still applies with everyone 4 meters away from any restart. Free movement management of the zone and the lane. When restarting play for an 8-meter or 12-meter free position, the official will 1. Direct the player fouled and the offender to appropriate positions on the field. 2. Take a few steps in to clear the penalty zone or lane. 3. When clear and the ball carrier and the offender are ready, say the word ready, which closes the restricted areas. Players, excluding the ball carrier and the offender, may continue to move freely outside of the penalty zone or lane. Take a few steps back out, stand still, put the arm up, and restart play. When restarting play for an 8-meter free position, the official will move in no closer than the arc line to clear the penalty zone. Her partner or partners need to help set players efficiently. All players except X1 and O1 may continue to move in, around, and through the penalty zone until the umpire announces ready. Once the umpire has announced ready, players may continue to move outside the penalty zone but may not enter the penalty zone, indicated in yellow, or move within 4 meters of X1 until the whistle. If they do, this is a false start. X1 and O1 wait until the whistle. Violation by either of these two players is a false start, as it has always been. The umpire backs out to an appropriate position, stands still, raises an arm, and whistles to start play. When setting a free position on the 12-meter, the mechanics are the same. The umpire moves in no closer than the arc line to clear the penalty lane. All players except X1 and O1 may continue to move in, around, and through the penalty lane until the umpire announces ready. Once the umpire has announced ready, players may continue to move outside of the penalty lane but may not enter the penalty lane, indicated in yellow, or move within 4 meters of X1 until the whistle. If they do, it is a false start. X1 and O1 stand until the whistle. Violation by either of these two players is a false start, as it has always been. The umpire backs out to an appropriate position, raises the arm, and whistles to start play. Free movement and substitutions. These substitution rules have not changed. The player must wait for the player they are subbing for to leave the field before they may enter. They may not come onto the field after officials' hands are on the sticks of the draw. They must enter through the substitution area. They may not enter during an injury or misconduct timeout, and they may not substitute during a redraw. Free movement allows the substitution to continue after the whistle. All players, except the player who has fouled and the offender, may substitute during team timeouts. Free movement. Managing a team timeout with a foul. Officials should set up the penalty administration with the fouled player and offender leaving their sticks on the field. These two players must return to resume play. Officials need to note player numbers to ensure that the same two players take the free position. Other substitutions are allowed, and all players must be 4 meters away when restarting. Free movement, team timeout with no foul. Place the ball at the spot of the timeout. If the timeout is called in the CSA, place the ball at the nearest dot unless the goalkeeper has possession in the goal circle. If the goalkeeper has possession in the goal circle, the ball shall return to her in the goal circle and the 10-second count will resume. Players do not need to leave sticks. Any player may resume play. All players must be 4 meters away when restarting. In what instances must a player stand? A player who is fouled when self-start is not allowed must stand for the free position. A player who has caused a foul and is moved 4 meters away or behind must stand until the ball carrier commences play. In an offsides violation, the player directed to stand behind the player with the ball in administration of the offside penalty must stand. Are players required to stand when a free position is awarded and self-start is not an option? The player awarded the ball and the offending player must stand for a free position penalty administration. The rest of the players may move as long as they do not move within 4 meters of the free position. Where do players move in the CSA for an 8-meter free position? Players must clear the penalty zone, but they do not need to take the shortest route out. Additionally, the defending team is allowed to place one defender on each of the adjacent hashes to the ball carrier. The boundary. These boundary requirements have not changed, with the exception of the space given around the player returning to play. When the ball goes out of bounds, the opponent nearest the ball shall bring the ball in bounds. The ball carrier shall bring the ball in bounds relative to the spot where the ball went out of bounds. Opponents must give the ball carrier 2 meters of free space. The new part of the boundary restart does not require the player to pause when coming in bounds. However, she must step in bounds up to 2 meters and wait for a whistle start when the clock is stopped. She may not pass him out of bounds. This would be a reset, and repetitive violations could be a delay of game. The words body or cross were added to clarify what is considered when determining who is closest and should be awarded the ball. May a player bringing the ball in bounds run down the sideline with the ball and then enter the field to commence play? No. The player must re-enter the field relative to the spot where the ball went out of bounds. During the last 2 minutes of the half, during stop clock play, may a player bringing a boundary ball onto the field self-start from out of bounds or self-start after stepping onto the field? No, this is a false start. Self-starts are not allowed when the clock is stopped. Instead, the player with the ball must step onto the field and commence play with a whistle start. When may defenders engage a player bringing a ball in bounds? The defense must give the player with the ball at least 2 meters of free space when the player steps in bounds with the ball, or 2 meters away from the position of the on-field whistle start. May a player self-start when bringing the ball onto the field from out of bounds within the critical scoring area? Yes. While self-starts are not permitted for fouls that occur in the CSA, a player bringing the ball in bounds within the CSA may self-start because it's a boundary restart and not a foul. Foul changes. Cover, check to the head, and false start rules were modified. Covering occurs when a player's foot, body, or cross prevents an opponent from playing the ball. The rule now includes the neck to be included in the foul of check to the head. The 7-inch sphere already includes the neck, so this modification brings the foul for a check to the head in line with the sphere as a protected area. This increases the official's ability to make safely related calls and emphasizes the importance of penalizing the stick to the head and stick to neck contact. False start. Before the whistle, step or make any movement simulating the beginning of play designed to gain an advantage over one's opponents. This would now include entering the penalty zone or penalty lane after the official announces ready and before the whistle. As a reminder, a self-start is not an option when the game clock is stopped, there is a restraining line violation, a foul occurs in the critical scoring area, including 3 seconds, even if the ball is outside of the critical scoring area, because the foul occurred in the 8-meter. The goalkeeper has a boundary restart from her goal circle, alternate possession is awarded, an inadvertent whistle occurs, or a goal is scored. It is not a false start when a player self-starts from beyond playing distance or when a player self-starts without pausing. This is a reset. It is not a false start when a player restarts play on a boundary ball by throwing the ball from out of bounds. This is also a reset. The rule states for major foul by a defense player within 8 meters of the goal circle above the goal line extended, the defending players are entitled to the adjacent hash marks. With free movement, any defending player, other than the player who fouled, may take an adjacent hash mark. One defensive player is entitled to an adjacent hash mark. Players next to them may be from either team and are entitled to an open position when they arrive. Attack players may take the hash if the defense does not. For a major foul by a defense player between the arc and the fan, the free position will now be taken on the 12-meter fan closest to the spot of the foul. All players' bodies and crosses must clear the penalty lane. This change is intended to simplify penalty administration. For a major foul by the defense that occurs between the 8 and the 12, the free position shall be taken on the 12-meter fan closest to the spot of the ball and the offender placed behind. The administration includes that the player fouled move to the 12-meter fan. The offender shall go 4 meters behind. A penalty lane is cleared with free movement allowed. The official announces ready, and the penalty lane is closed and the attacker and offender must stand. All players must be 4 meters from the free position, and a whistle start. "2020 points of emphasis. In addition to rule changes, the USL and NFHS rules committees have identified these points of emphasis for 2020. Starts and restarts, delay of game, and repeated fouls. Starts and restarts. As the game progresses with the addition of free movement, it is imperative that the game not be slowed down by improper starts and restarts. Be very proactive with all whistle starts. Officials should be quick and firm to announce "my whistle" or "whistle start." Hold to advantage when appropriate. Reset self-starts that are outside of the playing distance. If a whistle start is required and a player self-starts, a false start penalty will be administered. Do not hesitate to enforce repetitive miscues as delay early in the game to set the tone for efficient and fair play. Delay of game, self-start. Offensive and defensive delays of game are counter to the concept of increased flow of play. Officials must manage these early and consistently to establish an efficient pace. Officials should focus on players that repeatedly attempt to self-start beyond a playing distance, fail to move or stand when directed, encroach on the ball carrier, and do not abide by the parameters of self-start and player movement. Officials are encouraged to manage delay with warnings and administering green, green-yellow, and yellow delay of game cards. Repeated fouls. This point of emphasis focuses on limiting repetitive fouls and managing illegal play, especially with the introduction of free movement. These fouls disrupt the flow of play, may result in dangerous play, and place players at a risk. Repeated fouls are a safety concern that requires our attention. It is important that officials develop an awareness of situations when players or teams continually foul. Officials should consider, is it the same team, same player, or same target? Is it a means to let the defense get downfield? Is it a means to delay play, kill a penalty, or allow the clock to run? If so, utilize warnings to change players' behavior. Administer cards when appropriate. Calling and carding rough, dangerous, and repeated fouls early often settles play down to allow for flow. However, do not sacrifice safety for flow. If the cards do not change behavior, then continue to enforce the fouls. The flow of the game may not happen. Officials are expected to understand and apply the rules as they are written. Any rules, questions, and/or interpretations should be addressed with your association's rules interpreter, me, Bo Rugg at OHSAA, or US Lacrosse at the emails listed here.